I just think it's, when you win games like that and the fashion that we won it, I think it's a big boost of confidence. It gives us another level of energy. Winning cures a lot of ills. And when, obviously these guys, they're proud guys and they care an awful lot about this team and where potentially we could go. I thought it was a great response, to a game that we were disappointed in. And, I think, you could see the energy on the ice today as a result. So, I think it was, I'm happy for them. I think, they worked hard. They deserved it.
It's not just the winning, but the way you guys stayed with it, even when you got behind, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about. I just thought, given the circumstance, I was just proud of the group and how they reacted to, the ebbs and flows of the game. I thought we were playing well. We were generating scoring opportunities, and they get a goal late in the third there, and that could have, that could have gone a different direction after that, and it didn't. It went in the right direction. I thought the guys just stayed with it, and I told you last night, you can feel it. You can feel those moments on the bench. When the reaction is right or it isn't right, and I could sense it right away that the group had a certain determination, and they played hard. We got a huge 6-on-5 goal in the overtime. The overtime obviously was a pretty solid effort.
I felt like especially in the first period, the Cooley, Lava, Berard line was really buzzing. Just what did you like about that combination?
I just think they play a north-south game. They play a simple, straight-ahead game, and there's a lot of speed on that line. And I think, I've said this on so many different occasions. I think speed is hard to defend, and when they play with that type of pace, they were connected, so to speak. There was collective effort. They stay close in the offensive zone when there's 50-50 puck battles. They're all around it. They've got 3 sticks in the area within proximity to the puck that they have an opportunity to keep a play alive. And I think that's an important element of today's game with the way teams collapse coverage, and there's numbers around the puck. And so if you lack numbers around the puck, it's hard to keep it. And so I think that line does a real good job at that, and they use their speed to their advantage.
I also noticed Carrick's ice time was a little lower than his line mates. Was that just the special teams, or was he dinged up or anything, or was it something you were seeing?
No, I just think it was more the way the game played out.
I wanted to ask about first full game looking at Schneider with Gavrikov and what you made of that.
I thought they were solid. You guys asked me before the game, do we expect them to do anything different? And my answer was no. And I think when they're both very good defenders. I think Schneid's is a mobile guy, has some physical edge to his game, defends well with his stick. I think when they defend hard for us, they're effective. I think Vladdy's added an offensive element to his game and our game that certainly is a welcome addition. But I thought they were solid.
It hasn't been any easier with your schedule, but you've beaten some pretty good teams so far. Is that, just something that just keeps building some more amongst the group?
Yeah, I just think it's the league. I don't care where teams sit in the standings. Every team in this league can beat anybody. Anybody can beat anybody, and that's just the reality of it. There's more parity in the league than there's ever been. I think, there are teams you look at and you say, wow, this team's really good. They're big. They're fast. This week, you look at this week. Going into this week, we're playing 3 of the Western Conference teams. They're probably 3 of the better teams in the Western Conference. They're fast. They're big. They're hard to play against, and that's a good challenge for us. We got to get excited about it.
What did you see from the power play last night? Just what more do you want to see moving forward with that 5-4?
I thought they got better as the game went on. I thought that 4-minute power play, they were zipping it around pretty good. They had a number of really good looks on that 4-minute power play in the third period. I just think, as I said to you guys last night after the game, we put Brett in a spot that he's not accustomed to playing. you know, as talented as he is, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, and you know, I think he's going to be a fast study because of his intellect and his talent. I just think they need more repetitions out there together, and they'll feel their way through it. I thought they got better as the game went on. As I said, I thought they had a number of really good looks in that 4-minute power play. They didn't score, but they were knocking on the door a couple of times. Will Cooley had that. You know, JT makes a great play on you know, a kind of it was a double seamer. You know, it went from, I think, Mika to JT to Will. You know, seam to a low seam, and you know, Will has that, you know, that redirect right in the blue paint. You don't get much better chances than that. That's a pretty high quality look. That was just one example. Mika had a one-timer off that, you know, on that kind of sharp angle one-timer that, you know, where Draisaitl kind of lives on, only Mika's on the opposite side. That's a hard save for goalies. And Mika he got good wood on it, and it, you know, that's one that comes to mind. That was a real good opportunity. Troch had one from the bumper, you know, where we beat their pressure. So, you know, what would I like to see different? The only thing I think we'd like to see different is one of those go in the net. That would be great. But I thought, as I said, I thought they got better as the game went on. I think they'll get more comfortable with the repetitions that they're getting.
Big Kill also had a really strong game in Dallas' power plays. Got more goals than any power play in the league. But what did you like about the way your penalty kills were?
I thought they did a great job just being locked in with their game plan, and you know, there was a lot of collective effort. You know, I thought we did a real good job on the entries, making the entry difficult, and Dallas comes at you with a lot of speed. And I thought we did a pretty good job making that stand on the entry, making it difficult for them to gain access to the zone. But when they were in the zone, we want to be a pressure kill. We don't want to sit back and let power plays dictate the terms. You know, even though we're a man down, we want to try to dictate the terms. And I thought we did a real good job of, you know, appropriate pressure, you know, pressuring at the right times. And when we did, it wasn't isolated. It wasn't just one guy going. It's a lot easier to be, you know, isolated pressure than it is to be cooperative pressure, where you come at, you know, when multiple guys are working together. And I thought there was collective effort there in the zone as far as putting the appropriate pressure at the right times.